What's good, everyone? So I'll be going through my round 20 AFL tips and predictions. We now just have the 5 rounds to go in the 2025 AFL season. I'm obviously looking a little bit different. It was supposed to be getting a Roy Lobb haircut. Clearly, it doesn't look like the Roy Lobb hair color, but what can you do? And I've got the candy stripe jumper on as well because I think it's heritage/rivalry round, so I'm pretty sure the Saints will be wearing this against the D's. Let's take a look at round 19 to see how I went, and I ended up getting a 6 out of 9, so I think it was the standard score for the round. I started off on Thursday tipping the Giants, tipped them by 64, they won by 48, it was a 16-point difference, so, you know, a solid start there. Then I went the Lions to beat the Dogs. That game ended up being closer than I was actually originally thinking, because the game felt like the Lions were really cruising in front by a good 20 points for most of it. Hawthorn got a very expected, comfortable win over Port Adelaide. Same with the Swans, and then I got the next 2 games wrong. So I tipped Melbourne, and I tipped West Coast. Both of these were sort of the favourite tips. Geelong to beat St Kilda I tipped, which was a pretty standard tip there. A Freo tip. For this one, it's safe to say I can thank Zay Burnell, considering I wouldn't have gone and touched the Dockers in this game if it wasn't for my punishment to avoid tipping Collingwood for the rest of the year. And then I tipped Gold Coast, so that's sort of like cancels out my really good Freo tip. That was really bad. Should have just gone the Crows. But let's see who was really good in my tipping comp. And let's start things off with the total score. So we've got a new leader now, I'm pretty sure, in Trav 15 Armsy. He has 137. Jezza DC used the Joker this week with also a score of 137. Flino with 137. Adrian Carr and Owen 32, who's been in the top 5 for quite some time, also scrapes into number 5. In round 19, we had Caden, LC, Archo 08, Thomas Hoskin, and Smith Lenker lead the top 5 using their Jokers. But in a relatively difficult round of tipping, we had someone without a name getting a perfect score with a margin of 7. And then we had NPN, Flagmantle 25, Lapis, Isabel, Benny V, Russell Doggies, and Freo on top, all getting perfect scores. Just didn't use the Joker. But yeah, pretty good stuff from all of those people. Now, another quick little fantasy review. There's not too long to go until the finals. It kind of doesn't really matter much for the tipping videos though, the finals. I'll just go through the scores. But last week I got a 21.69, so another relatively solid score. I went up a few bits in the ranking. My team isn't that good. I know that for a fact, but I got a good captain score of Brodie Grundy. So you know what? I'll take it. Looking at my league, we do still have Jacob R on top, but potentially Adam P. Potentially he jumps up top of Jacob R in the comp with Lachlan M, Eddie J, and Lucas R all in the top 5. Well, looking at the big calls and all year really, they've been screwing me over. I haven't had a week in a very long time now where I've gotten the 3 correct to avoid a punishment. And yeah, looking at round 19, I got all of them wrong except for one, which was for the Dockers to be leading in the last quarter. But at that stage, it was already done. And unfortunately, once again, it means I've got to go and do another punishment. And these punishments are getting from bad to worse. I mean, I already look like a bit of an idiot. Looks like I got 2 to do this week, because I did say in the last week video, I'll play the clip. If next week I don't get 3 correct big calls, which I haven't done for the last 7 weeks, then I'll make an AFL parody, whether it's on my main account or my second account, on top of the most like comment this week. But remember, it needs to be something I can actually do. And again, like, how am I going to get into the winning team's rooms? So not only have I got to make an AFL parody, probably, I'm not sure if I'll really put effort into that one. I might just do a shitty one on my second channel just so I can say I've got it done. Last week, though, we had the Hawks go weirdly getting the most likes, going to the nearest supermarket and wearing a VR headset until you get kicked out. Look, if I can see a VR headset for under $50 on Temu, I'll do it. Because look at the second most liked one from Grookey. 12 shots of pickle juice. Is that dangerous? If it's not dangerous, well, I'll attempt that one, but otherwise, yeah, if I can get a cheap VR headset, then I'll do the first one. But yeah, those are the punishments again for the week. At least I completed a couple of all PJs. I got myself the Bleach Buzz haircut, even though it's not really bleach. So we're ticking along with these punishments, but yeah, they're getting to a point now where they're pissing me off. Now, I only just posted this today, but the votes for round 19 in the Cardi medal are now out. So I've got the link down below to chuck your 3, 2, 1 votes in. We're not that far away now to actually getting this Cardi medal show started on the live stream. So make sure you keep putting the votes in if you haven't done them already. Chuck them down below. And give that subscribe button a hit as well. Let's get 55,000 subscribers by the end of the week. That is the goal. Rightio, let's start now with the tips. And we've got on Thursday, Hawthorn take on Carlton. It's just getting ridiculous at this point now with how many really shitty matchups we've got on these Thursday games especially. Carlton and Essendon, whenever you see them on a Thursday, you just know the game's going to suck. And I don't think there actually has been a single good game on Thursday between either a Carlton or Essendon, at least not since like the middle of the season. But unfortunately, do have a game against Hawthorn. I can't see Hawthorn dropping a game like this because look at their next few games. They are 5th on the ladder right now, but their next 5 have probably got the toughest run home of any side in the top 8. And a lot of these sources, these, Fox Footy and all that, are saying that they might drop out of the 8 entirely. So you just can't afford to drop this game for Hawthorn. You wouldn't have thought it. It's too much of an important game for them to drop. Last week, they beat Port Adelaide by 38 points in a pretty expected result. They did what they needed to do against sides below them, which has probably been a story of their season. They haven't really been able to match it with the very best, but sides below them, they seem to have no problem in beating, and this is one of those games against Carlton where I think they'll do it pretty easily. You would think Will Day coming into the side will boost in their chances as well. Carlton, though, they picked up a win, so I give them a slight sniff. I give them more of a sniff now that they've got a win than if they didn't, because normally when they do win, they follow it up with strong form. Carlton can have a couple of good quarters, but a full 4-quarter game from the Blues is almost unheard of, to be honest, this season. Ashton Moy, though, was impressive with 4 goals. Matty Carroll was good. Wiedering was back to some pretty good form, and Curnow kicked the 3. Doherty will be playing his last game in this as well, so maybe they do, lift to the occasion for Doherty's last game. I could see it happening. I don't think they're going to get smashed, but I just feel like Hawthorn will have maybe that last quarter. They'll have one quarter where they, put the foot on the sword and kick a big bag of goals and just make it too difficult for Carlton. It's not going to be a great watch, I wouldn't have thought, but should be better than last week's watch against Western GWS. That was terrible. It was a terrible experience and a terrible game of footy. I'm going to be tipping the Hawks, though, in this game pretty comfortably by 33 points. But my big call, Sam Doherty, he'll kick a final quarter goal, being his last in his career. Rightio, we head now to Friday night footy, and Jesus Christ, seriously, they just make it from bad to worse now. Essendon are back on a Friday night time slot after what we've seen the last few weeks. They don't even deserve to be on the Sunday 4:40 graveyard. They're playing the Bulldogs. It's another game that doesn't deserve to be on a Friday. And it's also kickstarting a double-header. The second game's a much better game. This shouldn't be a double-header. I hate Friday night double-headers. Just have a standalone game, for God's sakes. Bombers, I feel like the fans just want the season to end now. I don't even think the fans are that disappointed. At this rate, they probably want to just keep losing and tank to finish in the bottom 2. Look, I don't know. Last week, I thought they actually played all right. Their skills were bad, but their efforts were not too bad, to be honest. They had a lot of chances early on. They were 0 goals 8 at one stage, where the Giants were 8 goals straight. Their goal kicking in the last 2 weeks has been deplorable. There was a period where I think they had like 1 goal 18 in a combined 3 or so 4 quarters. And I'm not too sure if they're bringing any cattle back this week against the Bulldogs. Maybe Nate Caddy, but ultimately it's not really going to matter for much. They're playing the Western Bulldogs, who are the biggest flat track bullies there are. They are still a chance at finals, but that Fremantle game where they beat the Pies really puts a big dent on their finals chances, to be honest with you. Could have won against the Lions last week. The scoreboard probably looks better than what the game overall felt like. It didn't feel like they were only a 10-point worse side. It felt more like a 20 to 30-point game. They had a few late goals to make things close, but I never thought they deserved that win, which they didn't. And again, it's another failed opportunity against the top 8 side. I can't see a world where Essendon come close, to be honest with you. It could even be worse than the matchup earlier in the year where the Dogs won by 91. That's where Bale had 49. I think Guelphy might put a bit of a tag on Dale in this game, so he's not as influential. But I expect someone like a Marcus Bontempelli, again, with his contract that he signed with the Dogs for another 4 more years, I think they'll feast on their opposition here, and it could get ugly. So I'm going to go a bit safe and go only 67 points for my tip, and Bont to have 125 or more fantasy for my big call. The second game on the Friday night is the much better game. It is obviously GWS take on Sydney, the Battle of the Bridge. I feel like it's still unfair for this game to not have its own standalone time slot. I feel like it deserves to be on its own. We've had really good games between the 2 New South Wales clubs in the last few years, so not sure why they've matched it up with another Vic game. Maybe a bit of Vic Vice, I could see being the case. Both sides obviously desperate for wins. GWS, they could still potentially, drop out of that 8th spot, despite having the last 5 games being wins. You got Sydney, who are also in some pretty good form. They've won now 5 of the last 6 games, and I could see them continuing going on a roll. If they win their next 4 after that, you never know. I think percentage is still going to be that worry for them. But I think regardless, they're going to want to get up for games like these. They've won their last 5 against the Giants, and they haven't lost away at NG Stadium since the COVID time. So that's a big stat. People were looking at this and going, well, I might just tip the Giants because it's at home. But the Giants haven't been absolutely dominant at home. They have dropped some games against sides around, the Swans at home. And the Swans are a good side at NG Stadium. So the Giants do have a few players coming back. I think in Hogan, potentially. I don't know about Sam Taylor yet. I think this will be a really exciting game. The Giants last week had that game against Essendon. I didn't think they played too great. They sort of played around the Bombers' level, but their accuracy helped them. They still won by 8 goals, but honestly, they didn't really play that well. They're just, continuing along here. The Giants is a bit of a test for them against their arch rivals. could go either way, to be honest with you. And to be honest with you, I actually feel like the Swans might continue the trend of winning away from home in these Battle of the Bridges. And I'll have a bit of an upset. This should be a good game, though. I'll hopefully be watching this one over the other one. I'm going to go the Swans by 5, and I'm going to say there'll be 9 or more lead changes. Next game on the Saturday, we have Gold Coast take on Brisbane at People's First Stadium. This continues what is set to be a bit of a rivalry round where every team is playing each other in the same home state. So no side will be doing any travelling this week, except if you're myself, which in that case, I will be doing a bit of travelling. I will be heading to this Q Clash game, and I'm hopefully expecting a good one. It could be set for one of the better Q Clashes, because later into the season when we see the second Q Clash, it's normally a very one-sided affair, normally towards the Lions. And we haven't seen a Q Clash in the last 12 fixtures where the margin's been under 17 points. Can I travel up and finally see a good one? That's what I'm hoping. Hopefully it'll be a good game of footy. But after last week, I've got a little bit of doubts, to be honest, on the Suns against, quality sides like Brisbane. Their efforts against the Crows were terrible. They didn't score a goal in the first half. To me, it proved that they're a pretender. They're not going to do much damage in finals. They might make a home final and win one potentially. But when they want to play away against these top 9 sides, I just don't think they have what it takes. And once again, they just not a mature side yet. They're still probably another 1 or 2 years off really being a serious premiership contender this season, but who knows? They've got an opportunity to still maybe be a top 4 chance to beat a side like the Lions with that extra game in hand. Brisbane were solid last week against the Dogs. I was at this game and the Ashcroft brothers dominated. Josh Dunkley was really good. Yeah, look, I think this should be a good game of footy, hopefully, but there's a chance it could also be a bit of a slog. I think it will be due to the other conditions. It'll be a bit of a wet one. I'll be at this game though, so hopefully a good game. I'll be wanting the Suns to win, but I just think you're going to probably be better off back in the Lions. They're a side that I have a bit more faith in these sort of games, and this is where they start really building onto a bit of momentum heading into finals. So hopefully the Suns make it a good game, but I'm going to go the Lions by 17 points. My big call being that both sides combined for less than 145 points. Next up, we have on the Twilight fixture, Freo take on West Coast. Another rivalry game, and the odds on ESPN for West Coast are $15. That is insane. I don't think I've seen odds higher than that all year. West Coast, for me, I just really don't know where they're at as a footy club. Seriously, they feels like every year they're going backwards, even though they should be going forwards now in their rebuild. There's a good chance they won't win another game for the rest of the season with 5 games to go. They blew their best opportunity against Richmond, a side that weren't expected to win a game all year. But the 8 goals they conceded in the third quarter really was what let them down. It was pretty alarming ultimately for the Eagles. They just are allergic to wins unless they play the Saints. You'd hope they show a bit of grit in a game like this in a derby, which I think they will. But even if they show, whatever they show, it's not going to be enough to match the Dockers, who are in some really good form. They just keep on passing these tests. They passed last week against the Hawks, against Collingwood. That was an awesome win. Probably one of their best wins. Definitely their best win they've had under Longmire, and one of the best wins they've had in the last 10, 15 years. To me, it proved that they can cause a bit of damage in finals. They beat the best side in the comp away by a point when they were down by 20. Patrick Voss kicked 6. Sarong had like 37, and he was massive in the game as well. And Brayshaw still provided good bits with the tackling pressure. So they'll probably take this one a little bit easier. Hope for no injuries to come out of this game, because it's pretty obvious that the Dockers are going to win. So I'll say they'll win the game by 47 points. And my big call will be that Caleb Sarong and Andrew Brayshaw will combine for 66 or more disposals. Next up on the Saturday night, we've got North Melbourne take on Geelong, the first non-state-to-state rivalry game of the whole Saturday, and a bit of an interesting fixture given this is played at Marvel, and the Cats haven't played North Melbourne at Marvel since 2019, so it's been a bit of time since that has happened, and the Cats are known to not really be the greatest side at Marvel. Now, their recent form being pretty average against the Saints, losing their last 3. It wouldn't surprise me if North Melbourne come out in this game and come out the blocks and sort of compete, stay toe-to-toe for a while against Geelong. And North do currently have a few of their bigger names out, but they weren't disgraced against Sydney last week. It was really only that last quarter where they fell away. And another bit of an honourable loss. No one really expected that North Melbourne to be anywhere near close to winning a game like that. So hopefully they get a few plays back. I think LDU might be returning, and McKerch, he's been in some very good form. So the Cats could maybe see this being as a danger game, considering it is at Marvel Stadium. You never know what North side will come out, but it really shouldn't be a challenge for them. If they're wanting to be taken seriously here, they're going to want to win this game pretty comfortably. But the Cats have a pretty soft fixture to finish off their year, so they just want to keep on getting the wins. Beating the Saints last week helps when they kick straight, and that's what they did. Sean Manor was really good last week as well. Bailey Smith has been out of form. Hopefully for his sake, he sort of springs back into action, gets a bit more of the footy, and finds a bit more form. I am going to be tipping Geelong here. Hopefully North Melbourne can compete for most of the game, but most likely the Cats should win this game pretty comfortably, and I'll go the Cats to win this one by 28 points. With my big call, North kick 4 or more goals in the first quarter. Last up on the Saturday night, we've got Adelaide taking on Port Adelaide in the showdown, and this seems to be one of the more one-sided showdowns with the form. You got at the moment Port Adelaide season, it seems to be spiraling out of control, whereas Adelaide might actually be a chance for the flag now. They are a very good chance of finishing top 2 with just continuous wins and looking really, really solid on all 3 positions of the ground. Last week had a massive winning over the Suns, and a game I thought was going to be really close. The Suns just didn't show up, and Adelaide just tore them apart and taught them a lesson, kicking, I think it was 60-4 at halftime. It was just an obliteration. They sort of put the foot off the gas a little bit after halftime, but walking away with no injuries and a 10-goal win against the top 6 side, you're not complaining. Dominant form at the moment, and I just can't see where Port Adelaide are going to find an edge to get a win here, because they've been a bit out of form with a few injuries themselves. They lost by 38 points last week, sort of in a game I expected. They just weren't able to win enough for the footy and get enough entries up forward. Jordan Sweet was a bit of a shining light in a pretty poor game for them. Most people probably expect Adelaide to win this game quite comfortably, but I think Port Adelaide will find something in them. I know it's an away showdown, but I feel like they'll lift and make things tough for the Crows in a closer showdown than what some are expecting. Obviously still going to be back in the Crows here. I think the Power will actually play a pretty solid game, considering, this is the last derby under Ken Hinkley as well. So I'll go the Crows by 7. Big call, Mitch Georgiades kicks 4 more goals. Next up, we have on the Sunday, we've got the 2 games starting 2:10 between Richmond and Collingwood. And yes, it is a little bit strange seeing Collingwood now off 2 losses in a row, and Richmond, who some said they might not win at all this year, now with the 5 wins and 2 in a row. You still think that the Tigers' good form will come to an end here. They could still have a loss here and still be a pretty positive result, but I don't think there's any part of me thinking that they're going to come close to Collingwood, to be honest with you. I know they were impressive last week against West Coast. They really were. First time since 2023 where they've scored over 100, and the first time in a very long time that I can remember where the Tigers have really torn apart a side. Yeah, it was against West Coast, and they're a laughing stock, but that was away from home, to be fair. And West Coast have had a few, games where they've been quite competitive, like against Collingwood a few weeks ago. Richmond, they just want to compete, hopefully not get blown out in a game like this. Hopper and Taranto, hopefully continuing their form. They were really good against West Coast. Collingwood did lose against the Dockers last week, and a bit of a surprise result by just the point. They were up by 20 points late. I know they had a few outs heading into this game as well, which probably helped Freo's sake, but, they want to be a little bit careful that they don't take this game lightly as well, because it could be a danger game. You never know. Richmond, in a way, have kind of nothing to play for at the moment, so they're going to want to compete, but I think Collingwood are going to make sure that doesn't happen, and I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a Collingwood fan, to be honest with you, unless this game ends up being close, then maybe, but if they want to be taken seriously, the Pies, I think they'd want to win this game by 10, 11 goals. I don't think it'll be a hugely high-scoring game. I believe it'll be wet, so I'm going to, reduce the margin I tip, and I think Richmond will be competitive, but I think it'll be kind of low-scoring. It won't be a great watch, to be honest. I think the Pies win by 45, and I'm going to say Richmond failed to kick 7 or more goals. Oh, damn it, I completely forgot that I have to tip Richmond here. I guess it doesn't really matter the margin. Richmond by 1. Thanks, Zay. Final game of the round, we have my Saints taking on the D's, 3:20 p.m. at Marvel Stadium. You might be looking at this game and going, oh, this means nothing. And it does mean nothing in the whole grand scheme of things for the season, but you've got 2 sides in the bottom 6 fighting for a win. They're desperate for a win. I think we're going to get a pretty good game, considering both sides haven't been woefully bad. They've just been getting losses whilst being relatively competitive in the last few weeks, I'd have to say. The Saints haven't been that bad in the last 5 weeks. They just haven't found a win, but they've been playing the very top sides in good form as well. And I had a read of a stat somewhere. The Saints have played more games against top 9 sides than any other side by 2. So finally, St Kilda can get a chance of a win, because it's been now 6 games in a row without a win. But against the Cats, poor start, conceding the first 5 goals. But since then, it was a bit of an arm wrestle for a lot of it. The Saints got a bit of momentum their way, but the Cats were always going to, they always seemed like they were the better side and were going to get up. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller are an absolute star once again, just continuing to get better and better. And he is someone that just needs to get that signature put on pen to paper as quickly as we can, because otherwise, we'll be in a lot of trouble if we can't hold on to Naz. I think if a win happens this week, you never know. Maybe they do a contract announcement potentially, but he was playing in the middle. He'll play more midfield minutes to finish the year and just continuing to dominate. He'll be exciting to watch. Melbourne probably should have beat Carlton last week. I didn't watch a lot of this game, but the bits I was watching, they seemed to be on top, but yeah, sort of dropped a game that they could have won. Cozzy Pickett, he shined in a loss. He had 5 goals again and had like 20 odd touches. His boys as well, finding teammates is also elite. And this is going to be a really exciting game just to watch the two go head-to-head. It will be a joy to watch, to be honest. I think Stephen May will be out for this game as well due to suspension, so I reckon this might be a relatively high-scoring game. You might not think it. Both sides really haven't found much wins in the last 6 or so weeks, and I think they'll be playing like there is nothing to lose. The last time the Saints did get a win was against Melbourne 7 odd weeks ago in Alice Springs. So I reckon the Saints finally, they're up against a bit of an out-of-form side, have to get their 6th win somehow, and I think they will at Marvel, and I think they'll score pretty well. Win by 23 points, and a big call in the candy stripes. Like they did against Essendon last year, they'll win and kick 100 plus points. So going through the tips for round 20, there aren't heaps of great games. You've got Hawthorn, which I think will win pretty easily against Carlton. The Bulldogs to beat Essendon. I think Sydney v GWS is set to be a really good game. Hopefully the Q Clash is a good one, but I think Brisbane win. Freo, Geelong, Adelaide, Collingwood, and then I think Saints Melbourne. We saw Saints Sydney a couple of weeks ago be a really good game, one of the games of the round. I'm going to say now Saints Melbourne might be the game of the round, but maybe that's just bias. I don't know. Again, another week of tipping. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you soon in my next one.